Hello, everybody, and welcome to a One Hub Racing stream, but not your typical racing. We've swapped the racetrack for an interview today, and alongside me doing the interview is, of course, none other than my fellow ginger, Colin. How you doing this morning, Colt?
Evening, Nick. Afternoon, Nick. How is everyone?
Really good, thank you. And we've got Jess and Katherine, Red Bull teammates in the P2 tier in One Hub Racing this season, and of course ahead of International Women's Day on the 8th of March, we're going to be doing an interview with them talking about all sorts of racing and inspiration and things like that. So Jess, Katherine, welcome to the interview. Thank you for taking the time to join us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, it's nice to be here.
Awesome. So Cole, should we jump straight into it? I think obviously Jess, Colin and I personally know a lot about. Obviously, Jess came to my wedding earlier, well, not earlier this year, last year now. But Katherine, we don't know a lot about you, so perhaps you just want to quickly just tell us maybe a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. So I'm known of Jess for a while because I've played the F1 games for a while, but I've had a bit of a break while I went back to uni. So I'm a PhD student, and now I've finally got a bit more free time. And F1's something I really enjoy, so it's nice to get back into it. And when I'm not playing F1 or watching motorsport things, I sadly support Bolton Wanderers because someone has to. So.
Awesome. All right, Cole, shall I leave you with the first proper question that we've got written down?
Yes. So, Jess and Katherine. So, what actually got you into racing?
Well, it was about 97. I saw my mum and dad downstairs watching a bit of TV, and there was cars going round, and I was like, oh, that's quite cool. And it was a Damon Hill documentary. I know quite a lot of people like Damon Hill, and it sounded very interesting. So that's how I got into Formula One in general, was Damon Hill and watching documentaries. And then I started watching it probably in the 2000s with Jenson Button, one of my all-time favourite drivers. I can't admit, I got to admit that. Loved watching him in 2009 in the Brawn GP days and stuff like that. And I've got into sim racing. I think it was around about 2018. I was doing commentary. I started doing AOR commentary back in 2018. I think that's how I got to know Katherine quite properly, because it was during AOR. And then I saw for one of the leagues I commentated on, I think it was Inside Line Racing, that they were looking for league racers. And I thought, you know what, just give it a go, do it for one season. Turns out I loved it so much that I carried on doing it, even though I was right at the back all the time. So yeah, it just helped me with my commentary, just doing a lot of racing and knowing what the drivers go through on a weekly basis.
And now you're leading the championship, Jess, in this season's P2 tier.
Yeah, no, I still can't believe I'm saying that. After this recording, it might have changed, but I can say that I've led the championship for at least one week. So, yeah, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, so mine's quite similar. I always used to watch F1 with my dad, and by that I mean we had no choice because he'd put it on TV. So my dad used to have midweek days off because he sells cars, but it meant that when he'd pick me up from school, I must have been about 6, 7, I'd come home and he had a PS2 and some other PS2 games, so I'd play F1 Championship Edition constantly, and I was really bad at it. Since then, I've been hooked, so I love all sort of motorsport. We've been to F1, British GT, stuff like that. Well, I'll watch anything really. And I started playing the F1 games, I guess. Must have been over 10 years ago. I'd always play career mode. And then someone messaged me once in an online lobby and saying, oh, you should join our league. And since then I've been hooked. I've raced in AOR, ILR, some of the F1 esports qualifications, but then I had to take a break because COVID and I was working full time. But now I'm back.
Awesome stuff. Thank you both. Both interesting backgrounds, story. I think racing is one of those things that you kind of get into when you're quite young. Said you end up being hooked. Okay, particularly when you sit down, you're about to do a race. What particularly do you enjoy about sim racing? Is it the competition? Is it the thrill? What particularly kind of gets your blood flowing?
Well, I like the battles that I have on track. I like getting better at the racecraft in general, and I like seeing underdog people do well as well, because obviously I started from a underdog background where I was near the back all the time, and when I got my first points in one up, I remember screaming my heart out as if I won a race. So when I eventually get a move done, it's just the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, I think I'm similar. Like, I just want to improve myself as much as I can, and then me and Jess work together, which I really enjoy this season. So I've never had a teammate I can work together with. And yeah, the on-track battles, I've had a couple of races here, but I've already had some great moves and battles with other people. Even if I've been on like the wrong end of it and they've passed me, but it's really enjoyable when you can race wheel to wheel with someone and you can trust them to have good racing.
It's not on the question list, but just a quick one. Do either of you get nervous before league races?
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. I think that once I've left for quali, it's fine. But when you start in the lobby, yeah.
I have to host the lobbies each week as well, so it's like getting the drivers in the lobby, and you also got to think about your own strategies and stuff like that. So feature races are always quite nerve-wracking because you don't know where you're going to end up. If you're starting in the middle, like 10th or below, it's probably the most nerve-wracking because that's where the most incidents happen. And one shot qualifying is always nerve-wracking because you only get one shot to get it right.
I think after you've settled down the first few laps, it's a lot easier then to think about the race. And
yeah.
Not maybe like, because you've avoided maybe the most dangerous part of the race.
All right, Cole, over to you, mate.
Have either you, Jess or Katherine, found any particular challenges being female racers in a male-dominated sport, really, and that goes for Formula One as well as sim racing?
To be fair, I feel like obviously there's always people that would be like, oh, you can't be that quick, or you can't do this because you're a girl or whatever. But I've had that with football as well. I've played football all my life. So for me, like, I see that as more of a challenge, you know, to show people that you can do this. And I think a lot of the F1 community or sim racing community is actually quite supportive. You know, that they want more people to get involved where they can. It's been really nice to see more sort of female streamers and stuff coming up as well. So at the minute, I think it's quite a nice place, but maybe I found the right part of it.
Because I started when there was hardly any females, so I think it was just getting myself out there, really, because when I started in the commentary space. Back then, I did not know any female commentators in the sim racing space, so I was just like delving into the unknown, and I got a lot of hate, really. That was my biggest challenge. I got a bit of hate from a lot of people saying, oh, you sound like a 12-year-old boy, you shouldn't commentate, it should just be the male commentary and stuff like that. And I think towards the end of 2018, start of 2019, I think I got a lot of hate, and I took a break from commentary for a little bit. I got kicked out of AOR for a little bit because they were worried that it was going to affect the sponsors and stuff like that. But that didn't stop me from actually pursuing my dreams in commentary and racing. So that's where I carried on with racing. I commentated on lower established leads, ILR, One Hub being an example as well, and that spiced back my enjoyment in commentary. So I think, yeah, the challenge is getting myself out there with a less dominated environment, a less female-dominated environment and more male. But now, in 2025, I'm seeing more female streamers, more female league racers, and that's just incredible. I enjoy racing with them. So yeah, I think it's less of a challenge now than it was when I first started.
I think that's a good point to consider as well. So like, obviously when I started, I just raced. The only clue people had about me was my gamer tag and my Twitter account, but it was easier I guess it was easier for me to sort of stay away from people mentioning it a bit, whereas with commentary you put yourself in the spotlight a lot more, and I'm really glad that it didn't put you off and you actually, you know, fought back and used it as a way for you to carry on doing what you love.
Yeah, I think adversity is something that, you know, a lot of people face in life, and it's how you overcome it, you know, as Jess described. So, you know, kudos to you, Jess. And I think this leads nicely on to the next question, which is, Jess, you took part in the esports finals. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about how that came about and how much you enjoyed it?
So, as most people know, I'm part of the Red Bull sim racing team in the Rock the Ring development program, and I always enjoyed training with a few of the women drivers that are in the team, but I wanted a place where I can race with other women in a kind of like competitive environment. So I saw something come up on X, formerly known as Twitter. I had to say that. I think it was Hayden Gullis posted something about being the Women in Esports Finals qualifiers for Races E-Series. And I was like, oh, okay, I give it a go because it's online, because the in-person ones I couldn't travel to because it would cost a lot of money. It was in Birmingham and London, so I did it online. And it was the first time where they forced us to run manual gears. I was used to running auto, but now I run manual anyway for one hub. But it was my first time running manual, so I was like, oh God, what am I going to do with default sets and manual gears? We did 3 races, 3 35% races, and the top 3 of that progressed through to the finals. I, of course, won that, so I got through to the finals. We then did a bit of training every month at the Guild Esports HQ, so we got some training from the coaches there, which improved my racecraft and general line quite well as well. We got to race against some of the women that took part as well. And then that all led to the finals at Sky HQ, which was quite nerve-wracking as it was my first LAN event in November, and it was all 10 of us, and we all had the same nervousness of taking part. We were all using the same rigs, and I think we all had different experiences. We had someone that got into sim racing that same year, saw there was something coming up. She only had Mario Kart experience, and she was one of the lead competitors in those finals, and she's now a Guild Esports driver. So yeah, that's how I got involved, and it was a really good experience. And I hopefully I put esports, women esports on the map, as there's a lot of people that I took part with, and I'm still good friends with to this day.
Well, Colin and I were definitely cheering for you, weren't we, Col?
Oh, I was very nervous, I got to be honest. It was, you know, when you're watching somebody and you want them to do well, yeah, I mean, going back to what Jess and Katherine said, where they get a bit nervous on the start, when I was league racing, got exactly the same experience, yeah. But supporting Jess, good job there wasn't a heart monitor on me. I think the doctor would have banned me from watching it.
My heart monitor was rating a million miles an hour. And the interesting thing, we'd hardly had any practice on the rigs, because there was one rig in particular that was not working. So we had to wait until that one was fixed. And then we had to do our one-shot qualifyings all in a row for the tracks that we did, which was Austria, Belgium and Silverstone. And then they told us, oh, there's because one rig's not working, someone has to drop out who had the slowest time. And I was like, oh God, I hope it's not going to be me. Turns out it was someone else, but I felt so bad because she couldn't take part. And the funny thing is, Cole, we didn't know who got pole starting order on the grid until just before the races happened. So for Austria and Belgium, for Austria, I only found out I got pole a few minutes before we started. So you can imagine my heart was racing through the roof. I've never started on pole before. That was probably the nervous bit, because I'm so used to starting like front row, P3, P4, whatever, but you never used to starting pole. So we hardly had any practice, so we were all in the same boat. So yeah, that was one of the most nerve-wracking bits for me, starting pole.
I think from like an outsider's point of view, because at this point I wasn't part of the league, obviously I knew Jess, but that was it. I'd seen this happening on social media, sort of as you were at the finals, and I thought like that was something that looked really cool. I didn't even know it was a thing. So, for me to find out something like that was possible is another one of the reasons that I really want to get back into F1.
Woohoo!
It looked like a really fun event, and another little reason for me to get back into it, to try and see if I could do something like that.
Going back to your esports event then, Jess, what was your expectations going into it? Did you have any?
That's a tough question, really, because I didn't really put much expectations on myself, because otherwise, if I don't do as well, then I would be disappointed. I was hoping for, I would say, top 5 position. Unfortunately, with my blunder in Belgium, which I won't go into, that didn't happen, which meant that Silverstone had a little bit less pressure and a little bit more fun. So yeah, I didn't really have that much expectations, but I think there was a lot more pressure from the other girls saying, "Oh, you league race. I'm expecting you to do quite well," and that made me more nervous because there was a lot of girls that said, "Oh, you have more experience. You're gonna do well." Well, not necessarily. We all have default setups. We all have same rigs. We're not in our rigs at home. Yeah, that was a more nerve-wracking thing as well, was that pressure being put on everybody else. I set the expectations that a top 5 will be possible, but then everyone else saying, "Oh, you're going to do well because you have the experience." Well, not necessarily.
But you did exceptionally well, and especially around Austria.
Yeah, Austria was a lot of fun, even though my heart was racing a million miles an hour, so that's probably why I dropped a few positions. But I had a lot of fun racing with a lot of the girls I still stay in contact with. So hopefully I've inspired Katherine, clearly, to get back into racing because of the esports final. So hopefully if there's another one, Katherine, we can inspire you to take part as well. You're similar pace to me, so hopefully we can take part together one day.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, another star for the future. So, Katherine, what is your background in sim racing then?
So I used to league race. I must have started maybe F1 2017. I was in AOR, and I started in AOR F6, I think, on like Xbox. I moved up the tiers. Eventually got into F2, and then I also did ILR for a bit. Eventually got into I think it was F1 2019, the F1 esports like qualification. I think it was called Pro Draft Playoff or something at the time. So I didn't make it through to the Pro Draft, but it was a really good experience. So I think I was the only female to actually take part in the qualifiers at that point. I'm not sure if there's been any more since, but...
What's been your standout result, Katherine? Like, what comes to mind when you think of like your favourite league racing experience?
It's weird because it's been like the first season where I took it seriously in AOR, but I won Monaco in AOR F6, and before the race I was convinced I was going to crash or something because it's Monaco, and then I think I won it by about 20-30 seconds just by keeping out of trouble. I think it was also my first league race win, which was great. So yeah, I'll always remember that because I was so surprised that I managed to do that.
Right, and that leads nextly into the nice one. So this is a question for both of you. Katherine, we'll start with you. What are your hopes for this season in One Hub Racing?
I think I just want to pick up as many points as possible. I'm just trying to get back to the pace that I used to have, having not played the game for a while. So I think points and consistency are my main aims this season. Obviously, it'd be great to try and get maybe a podium where I can, especially after Qatar, where
you were so close.
Yeah, my own mistake.
You could have won.
So yeah, it's nice to know the pace was there. So I just need to kind of keep it more consistent and not make these stupid mistakes, and also get Red Bull as high as we can because I think we work really well together as a team.
And Jess, what about you? Obviously, you're leading the championship, so when we wrote this question, maybe we expected a different answer than what we're going to get now.
Well, at the start of the season, I said top 10 would be ideal because I just missed out on the top 10 last season because the start of the season was quite poor because I was training for the Women Esports final, plus I had other leagues, so I couldn't really concentrate on One Hub that much, and I was getting used to hardly any assists at all. I don't know how Katherine does it, to be honest, but now I've just got One Hub. I still think obviously top 10 is achievable, but after seeing what I did in Qatar, maybe I should aim a bit higher. I think I would love to win the championship, but seeing how competitive this league is, I doubt that's going to happen, but you never know what could happen. But I would love a top 5 in the championship. That will just be ideal. But my ultimate goal, which I hope happens, but it might not happen, I would love to win the championship, and I would like to get Red Bull the top 3 in the constructors.
Awesome. Well, obviously Cole will be commentating, so if you do win a championship, he'll have that moment to crown you.
Yes, which would be very special, to be honest. And I don't. It's certainly not out of the realms of possibility. I mean, Jess, you're leading the championship now. Katherine, you a cat's whisker away from winning last week. You're clearly getting better and better as you get more used to the game and more used to league racing again.
A few points away from the top 10 as well in the championship for her.
Yes, exactly, and I can certainly see Red Bull, yourself and Katherine challenging for the constructors as well as the drivers.
We hope so.
Next question I'd like to ask the peer review is, obviously now women are starting to play a bigger role in Formula One. You've got the likes of Hannah Schmidt, who is the Red Bull strategy genius that she is. We've had Claire Williams in the past, who was owner of the Formula One Williams team. Do you think women are going to play more of a major role in the future of F1?
Yeah. I think so. We've already seen Ocon engineer getting into the fold as well and showing that it's not just racing that females can get involved in. It's also the engineering side as well and the strategy. And I think Hannah Schmidt, of course, I'm in Red Bull, so I have to echo her what she does. I think I saw her at the Red Bull factory once. I didn't get a chance to speak to her because she was out there doing her thing, but she's just one of my inspirations in the sport as well. And of course, we have some brilliant female pundits as well, like Laura Brinter, Natalie Pinkham as well. So I feel like we're getting into a better place in motorsport where we're seeing more females doing good stuff. I would like to see more female racers, and I know F1 Academy is a huge step into that. I can't wait, Cole, to see how Abby Pudding does in GB3 this season.
Yes, that would be very, very interesting. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing how she's going to get on. And of course, we do have a Welsh driver in the F1 Academy for McLaren now as well, Ella Lloyd. So that's another woman I'll be keeping my fingers crossed for that will do well.
Yeah, I think with more visibility of women in motorsport, it can only lead to more sort of participation, because it's hard to do something if you can't see other people doing it. So now hopefully people can see that these roles are available for them. So it's something that they could work towards as well. And maybe they won't be put off by the sort of traditional way that it's been male dominated. Now maybe they'll see that they can do it, and more people might aim for it now, hopefully, which would be nice.
Alrighty, and Cole, the last question you came up with, so I'm going to jump in first with one quick one that I've thought of. I always love to ask new drivers to the league who particularly fully immerse themselves in what we offer here, what their kind of initial thoughts are. So Katherine, obviously since joining One Hub as a new driver, what are your thoughts on One Hub? What do you like? What don't you like? You enjoying kind of the whole off track and different aspects that we try and add to, rather than just to turn up and race each week?
Yeah, I think it makes it really enjoyable, because some leagues you do just turn up and race. You don't really get to know anyone that you're racing with, but now, we all get to know a bit more about each other, how we feel going into each round. You can see the rivalries that are forming more. I also like the strategic part, so having to think about your car wear. That's really good. It can add, different elements to race weekends. And also I like that the strategies that enforce two-stop, because a lot of races you just see everyone will do the same or very similar strategies, but now it mixes it up a bit more. It makes the racing more exciting, and because you always have fresher tyres, you can push more, so it makes it a bit more fun on track as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the feedback. It's always good to get feedback from a new driver. So yeah, great to hear. And Cole, I'll leave you with the last question.
So, Jess, obviously you said about watching and supporting Damon Hill and Jenson Button when you were younger, first getting into to F1. So my question for both of you now, Jess, will come to you first. Who's your all-time F1 hero?
Of course, Jenson Button has got to be one of them. I did meet Jensen Button at the I think at a Sky Gala, because we qualified for the esports finals, and they invited us to Week of Silverstone to meet Jensen Button, which was quite inspiring. I was scared to speak to him properly though. I was just like starstruck by all of it. And also Lewis Hamilton. I think since Lewis Hamilton got into the sport, I felt so inspired about what he did in his first ever season. To get a podium on debut was just incredible. And seeing him in a Ferrari this year, it's just going to be so special. I'm looking forward to see. I hope he does well. He just feels so much more in awe of himself, and he feels so more inspired. So I'll have to say those two.
Yes, and of course Lewis broke a lot of barriers as well, being the first black F1 driver as well. And it's good to see that he's inspiring other black drivers to show that this sport is for you as well.
I think mine's very similar. I would say Lewis as well. I think when I grew up watching F1, so I was born 2000, so when I started actually paying attention properly, I'm probably about 10. You just saw Lewis doing so well, and yeah, he's broken a lot of barriers, which is really nice to see. And I really hope he does do well at Ferrari this season. It'd be such a perfect move for him if he does.
Cole, are you not going to ask me who my F1 hero is?
Well, we know who it's going to be.
In the same way that you're not going to bother asking mine.
Well, we know Cole's is Nigel Mansell, and we know Nick's is Lewis Hamilton.
Yes, it is indeed. It is indeed. All right, well, thank you both for joining. And we know, obviously, this interview will be going out on International Women's Day. Best of luck for your race tomorrow. For
Las Vegas
race, Vegas, yeah, another sprint round. So yeah, and hopefully, Katherine, you can get that win this season.
Hopefully.
As you were so close
Come on.
last week. But yeah, thank you both for taking the time, and obviously Cole as well. It's been a pleasure to get to know a little bit about you both, and your aspirations and adversity and things like that. And I do really hope that we can get more females involved in One Hub, whether that's commentary or racing. I'd love to see a bigger presence on the grid. So yeah, please do spread the words to everyone who watches this interview, and let's make it happen.
Yes, definitely. So if there are any female viewers out there who are thinking about it, I think Jess and Katherine are showing that it's certainly available to you, and you can be competitive as well. I'd just like to end and say good luck to Jess and Katherine for this season, and let's hope to see you clinch a victory this season as well as your teammate Katherine.
Thank you, I hope so.